Well, I'd measured off and marked up a piece of this sheet of 22 gauge stainless steel that I had, and I measured it, marked it for 3 1/8 inches wide. But I took it down to the shop with the intention of digging out my little air shear, my scissors shear, to cut this with. I couldn't find that, but what I thought I'd try the plasma torch for cutting that to see how it would work. So I set this up, got the plasma torch out, and got myself out a piece of box tubing to use for a straight edge, and laid that sheet out and started practicing cutting it. And I got to the point where I actually did a pretty good job cutting a pretty straight line on here. There's places I still got the edges boogered up, but for the most part I did a pretty good job on that. So I cut that whole sheet up into sections, so I got plenty of pieces here to practice with. Then the other thing that happened is I got a new rotobroach kit that has a 1-inch drill in it, a bit in it. So now I can drill out the hole for the outlet, the 1-inch tube that goes out that'll send the heat into the cabin of the airplane. So right now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the ones of these that have the worst sides on them here, these edges here, when it's built up into a box, then we'd weld onto this face right here on the plate and close it in. Well, what are you guys doing in here, huh? What are you guys doing? Oh, hey, baby girl. Oh, my big boy. Oh, is this my big girl? Oh, hey, baby girl. Oh, there's Dan, too. Yeah, there's all my kids. Oh, yeah. There's everybody. Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do with these, then, is I'm going to take the ones that are really good and kind of set them aside and save them, and the ones that I kind of boogered up along the edges here a little bit with the torch for one reason or another, I'm going to go ahead and use those for practice pieces, and I'm going to lay these out to fold into this box shape here, and then practice welding this seam together first. And then I just got my new rotobroach kit, and that has a 1-inch bit in it, and so I can cut out the hole. So I can cut out the hole in these for this tube here. This is where the scat tubing will hook up to go down into the cabin, and I can practice welding those in there and practice laying out with these, and that'll give me something to work on that when I screw it up it won't be a total disaster. And here's my first box, and I'm not too disappointed in that. It's kind of a tough thing to make on that little press brake, because when you make one bend and then make the second bend, the first bend leg comes up against the back of the fingers on the press brake, and bends this one back, or anyway screws it up, and then this one does the same thing when you make your third bend. That come together not too bad. It can only get better, I think. Well, I guess it could go to hell too, but anyway, that's not too bad. I'm not disappointed in that. So now I'll get some chill blocks in there and figure out how to put this together and weld that up and see how that goes. I got my first box put together, welded my first seam. I was trying to put chill blocks on there, some aluminum and everything to hold that all together and to support the weld, pull the heat out of it, like Jody Collier says in his videos, welding tips and tricks. And I was having a hard time getting these blocks that I've got in there clamped up. I found this piece here, and that's just the perfect size for this, so that slid right in there. And well, I started out, this seam didn't quite match up together. There was a gap over here a little bit, and it was tight on this side. Well, I started here with it, and I was using my 16th inch tungsten, and I got a lot of trouble welding here. Probably the biggest trouble is dipping the tungsten into the weld pool or getting the filler rod in it, and that's what happened here. I contaminated my tungsten. Well, I started to take it apart to go clean it, and I thought, this thin metal, maybe I'd try a 40 thousandths tungsten on there instead. So I set it up with the 40 thousandths, and then I welded from here this way to tie into that one, because it was pretty close here, and then I came back over here and started where the gap was and welded this way, and it actually turned out pretty good. I'm pretty pleasantly surprised with that. I did still dip my tungsten, but I still managed to make a pretty decent weld. I haven't brushed this or anything else. It's nice and bright and silver there on the weld. Of course, I had the chill blocks up there right close to it, the aluminum. And I had to put an end cap on that and welded it on, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but I'm getting better. It's actually functional the way it is. I made a few little mistakes on it, but I corrected them without any major blunders, and that ain't very pretty. It's actually not too bad, and some of it, like this weld here, I think was the last one I just made, and I had some pretty good holes to fill here on these two corners. But anyway, some of it's better than others, and I still have the same problem dipping my rod in or getting it too far away. I sometimes want to control the heat by pulling the rod away instead of just letting off on the pedal. Pulling it away is kind of what you do with a gas torch. So, well, I got this off the block, and looking at the inside of it there, I'm really happy with the way the inside of it turned out. I thought I had one spot in there where there was a pretty good gap that I wound up using some filler metal in and kind of melting out here, where I wasn't real good about closing that in. I used too much heat and stuff, and I thought it might have some sugaring on it, but after looking at it and inspecting it, it doesn't. It's pretty good. That piece, I haven't done anything to clean it up. That's just the way it is, and it turned out really nice on the inside there. So I'm happy with that. The next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and cut another one of these out and bend it up, but I'm going to go ahead and drill out for one of those 1-inch tubes, the outlet tube, and weld that in first, and then bend this up and weld it up like this and practice on that one. I was worried that maybe this 22 gauge metal wasn't going to be strong enough, stiff enough for this box, because it was a little bit flimsy. Once I got this weld in here and got these two sides welded up, or these four sides, anyway, the box part welded up, that stiffened up pretty good. But putting this end plate in, and this end plate here is just 22 gauge metal too. It's off the same sheet that these four sides came off of, and that in there, that strengthened that up. There's a little bit of give now here on this open end. Of course, the end plate on here is 20 gauge, so it's a little thicker than this stuff. This is 20 gauge, so okay. Well, I'm going to go take the dogs for their evening run and take a break, and maybe come back up tonight and do some more of this, but sometimes it's better to let all this stuff soak in to learn from than it is to try to keep repeating and repeating and repeating.